Okay, so I've seen the Spider-Man Brand New Day movie. Um, it's been a couple. It's been some weeks since I've seen it, and I gotta say, first impressions upon watching it was that I didn't mind the movie. I didn't mind it. I know. I've heard all the things and all the shebangs bangs going on, and my first impression upon me getting out of the theater is that I thought it was an okay film. I thought it was an okay film. It proved why it earned, currently it's sitting at $2 billion gross. It proved why it would earn that, honestly. Like the movie itself in general is one of those things where you would call a fun movie. So, like you take the fam, sit down, watch the movie, and you're gonna have a ball watching it. That being said, that only applies to people who are willing to sit down, watch the movie, and turn their brains off. Because this is a horrible Spider-Man movie. This is a terrible Spider-Man movie. It's a passable, good, okay, fun movie, but it's a horrible Spider-Man movie. Not only that, it's a terrible MCU movie. It's also a horrible character concept within different not MCU, but just Marvel characters in general. And it has an insanely stupid plot, a ridiculous concept of a villain, an even worse concept of a twist, an even worse concept of a twist within a twist. Seriously, the last message your sister got was her looking at a damn tag on a vent. That's not smart. Whoever thought that was smart was a moron. Just so stupid. So I just really need people to understand, like, this movie, it was like I said, like, I had fun watching it, but on the ride home while I was sitting in my car and I was thinking back towards what it is that I watched, I got insanely upset. I was getting mad. I was getting real mad. Like, I was like, I was like, how the fuck, that doesn't even make any sense. Oh my God, Jean Grey, seriously, she's a telepath. And I can't get over the very first X-Men movie being like, they explained exactly what her powers are being a telepath. Is that, yeah, she can move stuff with her mind, but she's not able to actually manipulate minds like that. Not yet. That's when her powers get later. But stupid, right? Just so stupid. But then it's like, even is to go so far as to make her power just that it jumps within a particular length of being away from. So it's like just really dumb how they did her powers and whatnot. And I gotta say that to make a character like Jean Grey, to introduce her in the MCU in this fashion, it coinciding with essentially you introducing mutants or the X-Men within an alternate universe, because you have Monica Rambeau go to a different dimension in the Marvels movie. Yeah, remember continuity? And no one cares about that anymore in the MCU, because I'm pretty sure it's just like, fuck it with all the different Kangs that exist just running around in a big ass stadium cheering themselves on in this whatever world. Like, that's just fuck it. That's never gonna get resolved. But the fact that you essentially would bring up Jean Grey as a villain in this fashion, and then made her such an irrehensible villain. It wasn't as if you feel any type of sympathy for her throughout the entire movie. There's nothing sad about Jean Grey in this movie. There's nothing that you feel plight in terms of like, oh, like, the treatment of mutants and what it is that can lead into later on. There's nothing that they build towards that would actually have some type of substance as to Jean Grey being introduced to Spider-Man. This can build on to something that'll blossom later on. Also, case in point is that, considering that the next Marvel movie is going to be Avengers Doomsday, and then that has a bunch of the MCU people fighting X-Men people, it goes to show you that it would have been smarter to make the scale of what it is that the MCU is planning on doing. This is, I'm going on a tangent from Spider-Man movie real quick. Just run with me with this. It would have been smarter to essentially made it to where you did the Avengers versus X-Men. That would have been a better concept of an Avengers movie. It would have been a smaller scale thing, similar to like Civil War, and then you can build into a character like Doctor Doom as an overall villain, rather than just throw him in a movie, have some exposition, try to showcase that he's really a bad guy, and think that that's just gonna, blow over with people and it make any type of sense. This is why I say Avengers 2 Age of Ultron is a good movie, but people are dumb. There's nothing I can do about that. Because, hey, this terrible Spider-Man movie made $2 billion, but hey, whatever. So, going back to Jean Grey. Jean Grey is essentially someone that does whatever the hell she wants and can in order to get whatever she wants. Villain shit. And then the movie tries to twist it around as to, she's not the villain. And no, she is, because there's no consequence for any of her actions or anything that she did. Her getting caught was purely by chance. But even then, it was like her ability and what it is that she was trying to figure out made no sense that she would go in this roundabout, in your face, up front type of scenario. I mean, like, you're able to take over people's bodies, find out every single detail about their lives while you're in their mind. And you didn't think to take over anybody that worked for the company that you were trying to invade? No, you hijack a cleaning lady who then took over a tank, and then you ran that into a prison so you can get Scorpion of all people. Not a super powered person, not someone who actually has abilities or some type of leeway to just walk into the DODC if they wanted to. No, you got Scorpion, a criminal who needs equipment in order to fucking matter. And that made absolute sense to you. So dumb. Absolutely dumb. And then it makes it even worse because later in the movie, she just walks up to the DODC and she has the Hulk. And it was like, the motherfucker teaches a class. Everyone knows where he is. So it's like, why didn't you think to do this before? You moron. Like, it's so dumb. Because they give no reason as to why you would do it now. They just have them do it now. But, and it's like, it'd been different if it was like, well, I didn't want to get any innocents involved. I was going through the notion of people who essentially were involved in the kidnapping of my sister, and then none of them. And the more I started figuring out about what happened, the less and less I was able to hold back on involving innocents. And then it just, how dangerous and how secure the DODC was after my involvement, I couldn't help but get the help of someone like Hulk. That would have been good. That would have, would have been like, oh, it's like, yeah, she had no choice. But no, so dumb. And then you have the Hulk not capable of breaking down a steel door, but you placed a couple of bombs on the steel door after, and then that just blew the walls off, and that was perfectly fine. But Hulk couldn't get through the wall, but the bombs could get through the wall. So dumb. Now, I would say that this movie is similar to No Way Home, the fact that I call it a 50-50. Half of this movie is good and enjoyable, but the other half of this movie is just complete and utter dog shit. Again, that doesn't mean that it's like, it's still a failure, but it doesn't mean it doesn't have parts that essentially are enjoyable. There's a bunch of parts of the movies that genuinely made me laugh and made me smile. There's a lot of parts in this movie that made me just sit there and outwardly go, yo, what the fuck? In the theater. I couldn't help myself. And I would get mad because I could hear the sheeple talk as well. So because they would be loud. So it was like Jean Grey. And I went, what the fuck? And then everyone in the theater went, oh my God, Jean Grey. And I was like, how's that impressive? This is so fucking stupid. That's what you gotta deal with shit like that. You just gotta deal with shit like that. Roll with the punches. But I say 50-50 with a hard understanding that essentially, like, yeah, a lot of the things that they were doing were decent. As far as the effects of the body jumping, I like the way how people looked as if they're being yanked and pulled and whatnot. That was cool, but it still was just very jarring as to, like, did anyone else notice that person looked like they just fucking fell or something? And then it kind of went in a straight line, but no one touched them or whatever. I also like the fact that Spider-Man's senses allowed him to just like track and like, well, he just immediately understood like, oh, like this person's different. The first inkling of when that happened, and then the old lady jumped into like a agent just standing next to Spider-Man, then he webbed his feet. I just like that. I like that quick, instantaneous aspect of Spider-Man utilizing his powers as well as it being thrown in a scenario that would either catch the villain on edge, as well as being something where Spider-Man is just more so reacting rather than being told this is what you should do in order to do this, fucking video game mechanic type bullshit, rather than just like, hey, this is what Spider-Man would do. And sadly is that you don't really get a lot of those moments within the movie, and so the fact that it happened when it did, I enjoyed it when it did happen, but it was really, really sad that it was like, hey, you had this idea going forward with his powers and whatnot, keep doing it. And it was like, nah, let's immediately change course. So stupid. But I think another major issue with this movie is, I especially have with this movie, is the fact that if you cared about all of the home movies, the Homecoming, No Way Home, Far From Home, No Way Home, if you cared about any of those movies, then everything that essentially was leading up to the sacrifice of Peter Parker from the No Way Home movie is completely undone in this movie. Everything that was giving you that sense of, okay, this is the struggle, this is him starting from day one by himself as what you would want to see in this Spider-Man being brought up by Peter Parker, who got nothing and nobody on his side. So hell, I would even think that the media would still be against him. There would be superheroes that would probably condone a lot of his actions. You would have a lot of people looking into who he is or what it is that he's about, because none of that stuff was fixed in No Way Home. They just got rid of all the villains. So he was still hated, was he not? So whatever with that, but even still, it's like that movie, No Way Home, ended with the idea that, hey, he's in an apartment, he's in a rundown apartment, he's got no one, he's only got a sewing machine in the corner and a police scanner. And it was like, so he's still gonna be doing Spider-Man, but it's on his own terms, starting from ground zero without any help building himself up. And this movie starts off with him having an AI assistant that's automatically fixing his suit, which is already retroactively made to be similar to like the Tony suit shit that he's been getting beforehand. He's cool with the police chief. He's like talking with her on the phone constantly, and then he's getting immediate updates upon criminal activity happening within New York. Fuck, people loved him. 4 years have passed like that. We see a montage of him handling some of iconic Spider-Man villains that are like in the C and B tier. Tarantula's definitely C tier. And then even the Hispanic dude they brought back to become Scorpion, because that makes perfect fucking sense, even though that Scorpion is supposed to be with Miles Morales. So Peter Parker handling him is stupid, and it was stupid when they did it in Homecoming, but Homecoming's a bad movie, so this is a bad movie. So yeah, whatever. Anyway, just you have this go by in a montage that completely just goes like, hey, this would have been the cool thing to see with Spider-Man building up his repertoire alone and by himself, and that would have been fun and interesting. See him get new relationships, see other people, find another girl that tells him that her nickname is MJ, and he kind of be like, have some fucking Twilight level panic attacks, some shit on that level. And then just out of nowhere, he runs into Zendaya. And when he runs into Zendaya, then he just kind of lets go of his feelings and understands, I did what I did so that they be safe. They are safe. I'm happy with that. Now, new people to get with. And then you actually get Spider-Man correctly. That's what was expected. That's not what we got. Because everything was just flash forward, you miss a huge chunk of essentially character development. I have no fucking idea what the hell Peter does for work in this movie. I have no idea how he's able to afford his apartment in this movie. I have no idea why he's so close with the police, or why the police would essentially excuse crazy ass things that he would do that he doesn't explain as to why he did it, but they would just excuse it as like, hey, that's fucked up, but it's like, if you do it again, then we might have to do something. But it's like, could you do something? No, you can't. But anyway, like, cute that you think that. But like, and it's like, there's no explanation behind it, but the movie just kind of lets you go. Like, you're just supposed to be like, oh, well, he's Spider-Man. And the problem is that's the same issue that the home movies had, where essentially his aspect of being Spider-Man. There was no Uncle Ben in the home movies because they still deny an Uncle Ben. Then you don't have any explanation as to why he would continue to be Spider-Man, despite the fact that it would be so outrageously interfering with his life, so outrageously evasively interfering with his life to the point where he's just kind of like, I just want to do my own thing and be a normal kid, or like, you know, have friends and hang out. I want to go on this school field trip and just have a school field trip. And it's like, well, if Uncle Ben didn't die, then he would understand that that's not a thing that he's allowed to do because he has responsibility. But you guys made a bad Spider-Man movie, and then you've continued to push that bad Spider-Man movie. So even though this movie should have reset that concept by having him have scenario situations and whatnot being brought up, but then he would have to excuse himself from that in order for him to be Spider-Man because of Aunt May passing, you don't have that because he's just doing his own thing. It's not interfering with his daily life, which is a relatable aspect of Spider-Man that they completely ignored in this movie. And you just kind of have him going with the motions of living his life. And that's odd. It's insanely odd because, again, it doesn't really do anything for his character. You just kind of had him be a stalker for 4 years. Now, I have to get this out of the way because I don't think enough people talked about this. A lot of people like harp on the Jean Grey crap, but to me, this was the worst aspect of the movie. Him stalking Zendaya and Fat Friend disgusted me. I hated that. I knew it was coming because I saw the trailers and everything, but seeing it in action disgusted. It was disgusting. One, this movie is a blatant copy of everything Tobey and Andrew thrown into Tom Holland's Spider-Man to try and make him a more appealing Spider-Man. Sad. And they missed the bar by a wide fucking margin. He's nowhere near their level. But the fact that you would have him essentially stalk two people that is like, yes, he loves them, he cares about them and all that, but he was stalking them and out of their lives longer than he actively knew them. Now, for a Fat Friend, I would say that he basically had, both of them. Because he met both of them into the school that Tony Stark got him into. He wasn't in that school for that fucking long. Possibly 3 years? Possibly. I would even say that. I would say maybe 2, considering the fact that essentially they had the whole blip, or the dusting is what they should have called it, but they had the whole blip scenario, as well as the fact that, you know, we don't know exactly when did he get into the little high school with them and whatnot, and even then it's like they barely knew him prior to that. So it's weird that you would have him stalk them, especially Zendaya's character. He didn't even like her for that fucking long. He only realized that he had feelings for her near his last school year. So, because that's what Far From Home proved, was that he was like, oh, I like her. I know that I like her now, and I want to tell her that I like her. And it was like, okay, but this was during like the senior trip. So then afterwards, you had everything that happened with Mysterio going into what they do for No Way Home. And so then from there, then they were establishing that relationship. So he didn't even know her like that. It's like, yeah, he liked her, but not to the extent of being like, oh no, I'm desperately, madly in love with her. Fuck no. That doesn't make any goddamn sense. But to go from that angle to where it's like you barely knew her, you barely liked her, you barely talked to her or anything like that, and then when you decided to express your feelings, it was near the end of your school year, and then immediately afterwards her memory and everything got wiped. After all of that, you decide to stalk and follow them for 4 years straight without any type of interaction and connection, and I'm supposed to sit here and believe that that makes perfect logical sense? No, that's gross, it's weird, it's awkward, I do not like it, it's fucked up, it's so stupid. It's an irreprehensible character arc because it does nothing. It did absolutely nothing. Aside from the fact that the villain found out about Zendaya, there's no reason for Zendaya to be in this movie. And that's another thing that I fucking hated, because it would have been cool if, again, if he had other people he was interested in, and then Jean Grey was able to see his interaction with those people. Instead, because for plot reasons, he decided to follow the people he was stalking, because he couldn't stalk them anymore. And they just happened to still be living in the city, and they just happened to move in together, and which they tried to have a flashback showcasing that, but that didn't make any sense, because the flashback was about them saying they should move in together when they go to college, but this had them moving in together after they left college. So how does that make any sense? But then you have her essentially find out about them from tracking Peter, and then from tracking Peter, she found his little dumbass note that he kept in a coffee cup because stupid, and that's how she was able to find out about Zendaya. Then she was like, well, I'm gonna go kill Zendaya because you keep getting in my way. Even though if she spent all of that time and effort dealing with Spider-Man, she could have easily had a distraction happen one place, cut off whatever little connection she had with whoever she had, and then immediately jump to someone next to her actual body that was near wherever the fuck it needed to be, and then continue on with whatever her plan was, because they established what her powers could do. And yet the movie continuously had her forget what they could do. Very stupid. Very bad movie. Very dumb. Very, very, very dumb. Now, another thing that's bad with this movie is the ending. The ending is terrible. The ending is terrible because it tries to wrap up everything in a nice little bow. But the problem is that it leaves way too many plot holes. Just so many moments are just left up in the air for you to go like, what the fuck? And it did it in order to try and showcase that Spider-Man is a New York villain. You got the city cheering for him and waiting to see if he's okay, because everyone knows Spider-Man's in the hospital. But that's stupid. Not like, have Spider-Man do a grand gesture and everyone is just there cheering for him, because that's happened with Toby and Andrew. But because Tom Holland isn't Spider-Man, they keep fucking up what would justify him being Spider-Man. And one of those grand gestures is such an occasion. Oh, is Spider-Man okay? Where the fuck were you people? Like, remember when Toby tried to save some kids and Mary Jane, and New York got together to start throwing shit at Green Goblin because Spider-Man is a New York superhero. Remember when Andrew Garfield had crane workers line up so he could zip his way to stop the lizard because Spider-Man is a New York hero? Remember also in Times Square when he saved people from a lightning from being barbecued, and then everyone started cheering his name because and they started posting his image everywhere because Spider-Man is a New York hero. He is beloved. And yet, this motherfucker, he didn't get people to come together until his ass was about to die. So with that, I just do not care for this movie, how Tom Holland character portrays Spider-Man at all or anything like that. Again, I still say that it's an enjoyable movie. You like what you like, you can move on. It's fine. Happiness, hugs, whatever. But there's just way too much with this movie that just like, when you take a second look, it's like, Jesus Christ. And I get normies wouldn't care for it. A lot of people wouldn't even give a damn about what happened at No Way Home. Fuck, a lot of people don't even care about all the issues and problems within No Way Home. My God, is that a bad movie? But that movie was pushed by nostalgia. This did not have such luck. So all you had was copying. And I say that with a heavy heart, that this movie essentially made it to where Tom Holland's Spider-Man did everything that they could to have him copy Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man in order to establish him as an authentic Spider-Man. First, he gets the authentic webs, which is definitely a signature Tobey thing because web shooters are what Spider-Man is supposed to have. And as well as you have it to where the actual force and impact from the webs themselves hit a lot harder, similar to what Andrew Garfield's did. You then have him waking up and put in a lot of awkward different positions, him falling and hitting his back and shit like that. And I was like, dude, this is the my back situation all over again. What are we doing here? Hell, even the web mechanic that the current little trailers that they keep having for Spider-Man showcase, when he's like having his hands hit together and they're just shooting the web all over to capture the hand. Another dumb group of individuals that shouldn't be in this movie. But when he captured the hand, And it's like, when I first saw him do that and he was combining his webs to do whatever, I just immediately thought of when Andrew split the webs with his fingers in order to stop the people from being electrocuted from Amazing Spider-Man 2, an actual good Spider-Man movie. But whatever. Now, another thing I have an issue with is the CGI in this movie. The CGI in this movie falls a lot. So there's some parts when it actually looks pretty good. There's other parts when it looks kind of terrible. Like it shifts between being an actual movie and then being a cutscene of a PS3 game. I don't know why. Now, the fight between Hulk and Spider-Man, that actually was a really good executed scenario. The breaks that they had in it in order to do Marvel comedy, I hated. But other than that, that part actually was okay. But it was one of those things where it's like consistently seeing the Hulk as well as Spider-Man just duke it out, nothing breaking away from it, no actual people to be in the frame in order to take away from the CGI. That helped it in a grand scale. But compared to everything else, when they kept trying to do that, and it was like, yeah, multiple times when Spider-Man was flipping around and you would see Frank Castle, it just threw off because the CGI looked one way, Frank Castle looked like a person. So that's another issue that I have. But yeah, I would say my final thought for this is that this movie should have been the build-up movie. This should have been the movie that introduced shit like possibly Gwen Stacy, him working for J. Jonah Jameson, as well as like having J. Jonah Jameson in the movie. Fuck, J.K. Simmons came back for No Way Home. You think he wouldn't have came back for this? You had so many opportunities to do things where you would have put Spider-Man on that ground level of being his own individual superhero that did not get help from anyone else. He's still inspired by Tony Stark, which is what you love to have in your fucking movies, as well as he's someone that's basically dealt with his tragedy of having Aunt May as the reason behind him learning great power comes great responsibility, which you insisted on doing in the your third movie with the motherfucker. He learns the thing that makes him the hero. Fuck you. Anyway, this should have been the movie that shows him getting in good with the police, finding or dealing with crime and dealing with actual big deal crime bosses and whatnot. Fuck, they had Tombstone in the opening. It's like, dude, that would have been something. Tombstone, Kingpin, Silvermane, the Owl, Jackal, fuck. And like the Jackal, the crime boss, not the Jackal, the scientist. There's a difference. But fuck, help Scorpina if you wanted to. You didn't have to use Scorpion. There's just like you had so many opportunities to do so many things to introduce basically more mutates, as well as the add in the factor of different stuff going on with mutants, or having Peter in school learning different things and introducing mutants. All of that could have been cool, but you just opted out from doing that in order so you can stick in Zendaya and Fat Friend, because literally taking away all of that only allowed for those two characters to be introduced in this movie. It's the weirdest thing when you actually pay attention to it. And it's like, yeah, if you would just get rid of that concept, then you could have had so much room to work with anything going on with about to say Andrew, not Andrew, but Tom Holland Spider-Man, and that would have been perfectly fine. But you just didn't do it. Don't know why, but you just didn't do it. So I'd like to end this video with speaking on one thing. I hated the scene where it shows the Hulk in class teaching. And this is my final thought to show you, like, to let you know exactly how bad the writing is for these movies I've gotten, and why I have no hope for Doomsday, and I have no hope for anything dealing with Spider-Man in the future, as far as these people are concerned. When Hulk was teaching a class, a student, like, he was teaching a class and everyone raised their hand because they want to talk about him being the Hulk, which is dumb because he would have been teaching the class for a while and everybody would have known everything they needed to know or talk to him by now. So it's like them just being that hype at this point in time, in this moment, whatever. But for a girl to raise her hand and she to say, if Thanos wanted there to not be any hunger, why didn't he just make more food? And that to me was stupid because it completely disregarded everything that Thanos stood for. And it was one of those situations where it was like, that's a dumb statement to make because whoever wrote this didn't understand the Thanos that they made. The Thanos that was essentially done in Endgame, in Infinity War and Endgame. Thanos literally says in Infinity War why the notion of just making more does nothing. You need to take away half of the population in order for there to be a balance. And there needs to be a balance. You can't just give and not fix anything. And he was like, that doesn't. And so he was like, and so like that's something that he literally stated. And then like he brought that up when he talked about his home world to Tony Stark. Now, granted, Thor wasn't there for that conversation, but still, if this kid is able to sit there and question this shit because someone made it public knowledge about all this information and whatnot, then why the fuck would Banner also not know whatever detail Thanos had going on about whatever scenario? You know, it's like, if you're gonna cut corners, then cut corners. But I say all that because of the fact that to me, it is insanely retarded for the fact that you would have someone think that, you know, like just question is like, oh, like what Thanos did was ultimately stupid or bad or dumb or whatever. But in essence, the answer to that, rather than Banner being able to specify exactly what Thanos was trying to do or how dangerous he was or whatnot, to just add on to that, they went for a bad Marvel joke where he just told one kid that was painted green to just go Hulk smash. And it's like, yeah, Hulk smash, that's the answer. And to me, that was bad because it undermined the set. Because like for someone like Banner in that scenario, because this movie does a lot to like destroy essentially just characters. For someone like Banner, my friend was killed because of Thanos. I knew people who died because of Thanos. You know, like the one woman that I possibly could have loved outside of Betty is dead because of Thanos. So him not having a far more intelligent, if not emotional answer to that's something that would have sprung, like just another thing that would have added on to Peter essentially resonating with him, which could have been a moment that they shared or like a thing that he identified within Banner that made him respect him even more. That to me was just like a missed opportunity to do something with a character that you definitely should have did something with. And that essentially explains this movie in a nutshell. So with that, I'm going to end it here. This has been another episode of Fun with Flame. I've been your host, Danieltheflame. I know it's been a minute since I've done my reviews, but there you go. So as always, good people, I hope you had fun.